That movie sucked.
I kind of liked it.
Movie Night Crew Network.
They moved as fast as they could, bent almost double. Ahead of them, Crookshank's tail bobbed in and out of view. On and on went the passage. It felt at least as long as the one to Honeyduke's. All Harry could think of was Ron, and what the enormous dog might be doing to him. He was drawing in sharp, painful gasps, running at a crouch. And then the tunnel began to rise. Moments later, it twisted, and Crookshanks had gone. Instead, Harry could see a patch of dim light through a small opening. He and Hermione paused, gasping for breath, edging forwards. Both raised their wands to see what lay beyond. It was a room. A very disordered, dusty room. Paper was peeling from the walls. There were stains all over the floor. Every piece of furniture was broken as though someone had smashed it. The windows were all boarded up. Harry glanced at Hermione, who looked very frightened, but nodded. Harry pulled himself out of the hole, staring around. The room was deserted, but a door to their right stood open, leading to a shadowy hallway. Hermione suddenly grabbed Harry's arm again. Her wide eyes were traveling around the boarded windows. "Harry," she whispered, "I think we're in the Shrieking Shack." What's up, potheads? Welcome to the Restricted Section, a show in which a bunch of nerds with potty mouths reread the Harry Potter series for the umpteenth time and discuss how the book and its themes have stayed with the generation into adulthood. Thanks for listening. If you haven't done the reading, don't worry. We did it for you. Here's what we're talking about today. Chapter 17, Cat, Rat, and Dog. This chapter follows the Golden Trio into the roots of the Whomping Willow, down the tunnel, to the Shrieking Shack, and into the hands of Sirius Black. Also, I'm just going to tell you guys right heckin' now, our special guest on this episode is the beloved Tyler Carlin, co-founder of the WB&E Network and co-host of Bacon and Eggs and Movie Lovers podcast. And when I asked him to come on for this episode, he was like, yeah, sure, as long as my wife doesn't go into labor on that very day. And I was like, cool, I hope your baby prioritizes the needs of my podcast. Thank you so much. So I'm just going to let everyone know right now that halfway through this episode, Tyler rushes off to take his laboring wife to the hospital because he believes that his baby is coming. As of right now, almost a full week later, to the best of my knowledge, the baby still has not been born yet. That was a false alarm. I don't want anyone to get excited when we get to that very dramatic part of this episode, but I didn't have a better explanation for why Tyler leaves halfway through, so I left that whole shebang in just for a little bit of drama, because as we all know, wizards are all about the drama. So whether or not the baby's born yet, as of whenever the heck you're listening to this, just best of wishes to Tyler and Emily and their beautiful baby that I'm assuming will be beautiful. We don't know yet because they haven't been born yet, but just like freaking best of wishes. And I'm sending all of my very best childbirthing vibes to you. For the love of God, I hope that you get to have that baby soon. Because I don't know anything about babies, but my guess is that having a very grown baby inside of you is not the most comfortable thing. Anyway, I'm rambling. God bless Emily, and Tyler, you're doing great. On to the show. Welcome to the Restricted Section. It's me, your host, Christina. I'm super happy to be here. Wednesday is the best day of the week. Grace, hello.
Hey there, girl.
Hey, what's up? Nope. That's just a different way of asking how you are.
We're not doing it.
And Mary Clay, I see you.
I'm here. Hello.
Hello. It's so good to see you. You got your second vax in you?
I got my second vaccination. Yup.
Is that like a second breakfast?
No, that's not, because there's no 11Zs or afternoon tea or anything.
What about second vaccination?
Can you imagine, though, if the vaccination schedule followed the Hobbit food schedule?
You need like 11 of these. And everyone, if you don't recognize his voice, I will be delighted to introduce you to our special guest this week, Tyler Carlin, co-host of Bacon and Eggs and Movie Lovers podcast, and the co-founder of the WB&E Network, whom as a network I consider to be a great friend of mine.
Yay! Hello, that's me. I know all of you except Christina, which is two of you.
Well, so you obviously know Mary Clay because she has a podcast on your network. Do you want to talk about...
we've never met before. This is the first time I've spoken to him.
It's just not true.
Stranger danger.
I'm actually really nervous because the only other like literature podcast I've been on was Mary Clay's, and it like gets reviewed on like her like
It doesn't.
It's at least once has been reviewed as like, this is a good podcast, but there's one episode about whatever one I did where it just sucks. Like they just
That's not what it said at all.
Tyler, do you want to tell us a little bit about how you know Grace?
I know Grace because her twin brother was my best friend from like 3rd grade to 8th grade, and then we just weren't best friends anymore. I don't know.
That's okay.
Yeah, I think like it wasn't like we got into something and like broke up. We just kind of like went our separate ways, and I fell in love with Ethan, and it was like a whole thing.
Wow.
And Dr. Bill Ball, which is his name now, Grace's twin brother William was on the very first chapter of this this book. So if you don't know who we're talking about, just go all the way back to the start, to the very boring chapter called Outpost, where he entertained us with anything other than the content for at least an hour.
Yeah, Ty and I go way back. Elementary school, right?
Yeah, I mean, literally, like, because you were Ball and I was Carlin, we had like homeroom together throughout everything. Our lockers were always near each other.
Yeah.
And we met in 3rd grade because I sat next to you and Will. And
you lucky dog.
I know. I mean, I couldn't be better, you know?
I love those friends that you only saw when things were alphabetized. Wait, I don't know if I've ever told you guys before, but there was a girl in my high school whose name was Christina Canoe. Kanu. No. So my last name is like Kann, and people used to mistake us for each other all the time, which is hilarious because she's black and a lot better at school than I ever was. So people would call me and be like, "Oh my god, you made like what
valedictorian or something?"
No, like less
like
than
summa
that.
cum laude.
Dean's list or something?
Dean's list. Is that a thing in high school?
not
No,
a
it's
thing
A
in high
honor
school,
roll.
no.
A honor roll.
Honor roll.
That was
Yeah.
Will and Grace.
People would call me and be like, "Way to go on the honor roll," and I'd be like, "That is not me. That is this other hoe." Shout out to Christina Canoe. I follow her on Instagram. She's doing great. So, Tyler, we're super excited to have you. What Hogwarts house are you?
Oh, you would freaking ask me this stupid question. Nothing infuriates me more than these stupid houses.
You're on a Harry Potter podcast.
This is-
Well,
Oh.
you don't have to pick one. One time we had a guest
no, I'm a
make one
Ravenclaw
up.
through and through. We don't
That's
need to like.
false. I can tell you definitively that's false. Tyler is a Hufflepuff.
I
who
am
will
not
assert-
a freaking Hufflepuff.
He asserts.
I didn't just
so
like
hard
get
that he's a
into
Ravenclaw.
Hogwarts. I am at least witty. At least I can
Okay,
like
so-
make puns to get into the common room.
Hufflepuff is full of puns. Are you kidding me?
So the listeners don't know this, but when we first got on this call, you were talking about how you have a friendship crush on me. So if that ain't a big Hufflepuff mood, I don't know what is.
Yeah, that is
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
I don't know.
I'm telling you all definitively that Tyler is a Hufflepuff.
I've never gotten
want to
Hufflepuff
accept
on
it.
like any quizzes or tests. It's always Gryffindor or Ravenclaw.
I
Yeah.
prefer to let people self-define, and I do obviously.
That's
I
fine,
definitely
but your
I get the
self-definition is
Gryffindor.
wrong.
Honestly,
I get Gryffindor vibes from you.
I mean, 3rd grade Ty was full Gryffindor.
Okay, but 3rd grade Christina was a fucking Slytherin.
Okay,
so.
Grace, I need you to take it forward 3 years to when I was 11. 6th grade
Okay.
Ty. We just
What
got
you
to
would have been
integrate.
sorted into.
Yeah, like we meet all the kids from the other schools. I'm super intimidated because like Taylor Bauman knows the kids from the
Oh my
other
God.
schools, and
Yeah,
we don't.
I know.
Do
I
you
didn't
remember
know
this?
anybody. Yes.
Yeah, I was so
I was
mad.
like, how do people know each other?
Yes.
I have no idea what the fuck y'all are talking about.
Taylor
like,
Bauman
neither do
knew
I, don't
everybody.
worry about
That's what we're talking about. And she was a B, so she was in our class. She was also a B in the like she was mean thing.
Taylor, it's fine.
You big Potter
Okay.
fan, Taylor? Hi.
No, she's
I know
way
your
too
home
cool.
phone number.
She's way
Taylor,
too
literally,
cool for us.
if you're listening, like literally hit me up, okay? So Tyler, tell us a little bit about your Harry Potter history. When were you exposed to the books? When were you exposed to the films? Who helped you appreciate Harry Potter? Tell me everything.
I'm like a proper first generation Potter fan. I think
Oh, yeah.
we started like the midnight releases with Prisoner of Azkaban. Like,
Because this is when we started giving a shit.
Right. And I was like 4 when the first one came out, so I didn't quite count. But like, I mean, we were all in from day one. And we, like, when Deathly Hallows came out, we ended up with 3 copies because my brothers and I didn't tell each other that we were all at different stores buying it.
Well, and you can't all read it at the same time. You have to have 3 copies.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Potter's been a big part of my life for pretty much my whole life. It is a huge part of like the Super Carlin Brothers community, and that's my older brothers. So if you don't know who they are, they're this like big YouTube channel, and they do content on like Harry Potter, Star Wars, Pixar, all that stuff.
They're like the Duggars.
Yeah, they are kind of like the Duggars.
How are
That's
they
what
like
I
the
thought.
Duggars?
That's the joke that I have. Because
There's 3 of us.
I had never heard of the Super Carlin brothers, but the name to me, for whatever reason, implied that there was like 25 of them.
Do you know how much my mind got blown when I realized that Tyler Carlin and the Carlin brothers were connected to each other? I was like, holy shit.
It's been that way my whole life. Like, yes, the Super Carlin Brothers, but Grace can attest. My dad is like the local news anchor, so like every teacher, because people still watch cable when we were in school. It's like every teacher was like, "Oh, are you Ben or Jonathan's brother, or are you John's son?" And so, I've been living in the shadow pretty much my whole life.
Oh, you're doing great.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm trying. I'm really trying. Shine my own light, you know?
Yeah, well, we're so glad you're here. I mean, so far you're the only Carlin on this podcast, so that's your claim to fame.
That is my claim. My mom listens to Popcorn Culture, which is my brother's podcast, but not Bacon and Eggs.
Wow.
We've been over this. It's because they talk about like their childhood memories.
Yeah.
And that's fun for your mom to reminisce on.
I understand that, but it's still. I wrote a. So I've been into Potter my whole life. One of the Potter theory videos I'm very proud of was one that I like pitched, and it did very well. It was the.
He's looking it up right now. I can see. His
Can't
glasses.
remember what it is.
I know what it is. I
He's
can't
so
remember the
proud
title.
of it.
918,000 views. I'm super proud of this one. The youngest
God.
Quidditch player before Harry.
Okay.
Because they're like, you're the youngest player in a century. It's like, that's not that long. There are people
Yeah, who was
in
a century ago?
It was Dumbledore.
What?
Nuh-uh.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, well, we will surely link that video in the show notes. Okay, so before we get... This is like a pretty intense chapter with a lot going on, so we need to dive into it. But before we get there, I would like to take a brief interlude for our favorite segment, which we call Mott's Thoughts. And Andrew sings it. I don't know. It's like, Mott's Thoughts. I don't really know. It's like based on something. I don't know.
Wayne's World. Wayne's World is what that's based on.
Is it?
Wayne's World. Wayne's World.
No, I think he said it. Whatever. Okay, well, I'll touch base with Andrew on that one. So Mott's has sent us an email with several like non sequitur headcanons. So the rest of this book is pretty intense. So we're gonna discuss one per episode until the book is over. And there's actually the perfect number for the rest of the chapters. So like just a big ol' shout out to Mott's for making that happen.
We love him.
We love you, Mott's.
I met Mott's one time in Orlando.
You did?
I did.
Shut up.
Oh, yeah.
I'm so
God.
jealous. It's his birthday soon. I'm like looking it up. I think it's next week when this episode comes out.
Happy birthday, Mott.
Yeah, happy
birthday.
Mott's. So here's Mott's email. This is just as a reminder, the first in a list. Okay. So here's Mott's first non sequitur headcanon. In an alternate universe, Dumbledore's army was called Albus's army, AA for short, which led to some confusing moments involving students who had gotten a little too fond of butterbeer.
Oh.
Okay.
That's the end of it. Not much to discuss there, but
No, I
it's
just think
a
that's
cute
fun.
little joke, yeah.
That is fun.
Mott's Thoughts. Thank you so much, Mott's. So, let's get into it. This week we're talking about Chapter 17, Cat, Rat, and Dog, which doesn't have an Oxford comma because it's a British book, but like, whatever.
Isn't... What? Yes, it...
You're reading the American edition.
Yeah, the American edition does have an extra.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yes, I'm reading
Good.
the American edition. This is America.
Grace and I are reading the Bloomsbury Illustrated editions, which are kind of a hybrid.
I have exciting news. I don't know what editions these are. They're either like the 10th anniversary or I don't know. But at some point they did a redesign of all of the books and they have these really beautiful covers. And then when you line up all the spines, it makes Hogwarts.
Oh my God.
And I've always wanted it, but it's like $100. And I also don't want to buy a box set and support
TERFs.
She Who Must Not Be Named.
Yeah.
So I have started ordering used editions on thrift books.
That's awesome.
Nice.
For this. And I have all of them except for whatever reason 1 and 2 are like always, every time I check, they never have them.
That's probably because people give them to their kids to read, those first 2, you know?
Maybe, yeah. And so I don't know. I just
don't.
wanted to share that I have a new copy that I'm reading out of because I was like, I don't want to have to sit down every time for Goblet of Fire and lug out the illustrated edition.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I
pretty
get it.
serious.
So I need to get some new editions in my house, in my life.
Yeah. Well, it looks great.
Pre-TERF era, I bought myself a set of the paperbacks and the original covers. And these are my, like, beat around, take notes in them books.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's important to have several different editions. My original Scholastic edition, the first 3 books are so fucked up you just can't even use them. Like, can't even
Like
read them.
hunks falling out.
Yeah, hunks falling out. So I need to buy a new edition. I'll probably get the same one as you, Mary Clay. But yeah, used, because we don't support TERFs here. That's the last kind of bitch we support here is the TERF bitch.
Mhm.
Yes.
Every other kind of bitch.
Great.
Oh, we love
Excellent.
it.
We love her. But
Yeah.
not this
stand.
one.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out, so like Sean, my husband's family gifts me like the newest illustrated edition every year for Christmas. And I'm like, do I even explain to them that I don't want it anymore? Or like, do I just let them?
She's a gazillionaire, man. One illustrated edition is probably fine.
Exactly. That I'm like the value of having to explain to my in-laws what a TERF is and like getting into all that.
Yeah.
Just like also while we're on the subject of my beloved husband Sean, Lupin in this fucking chapter has big Sean energy. Whatever, we'll get to it. I just like literally like as an adult I'm reading Lupin and I'm like, some gal needs to marry him. And then people say I'm like Tonks and I always forget that and I'm realizing it again right now.
Yeah. I was gonna say you give a lot of Tonks energy for me. So
I'll allow it. Okay, so last week on Harry fucking Potter, the Golden Trio was trying to get away from Hagrid's house because Buckbeak was getting beheaded and murdered. But Scabbers was acting out. So the last thing that happened in the last chapter is that we heard Buckbeak get beheaded. That's where this chapter starts.
well, we heard an axe thud.
Yes, we heard an axe thud.
That's what we heard. We
So-
don't know what
No, you're right.
happened
You're right.
between the axe and the ground.
Oh, spoilers all the time. They didn't get him. So the trio, they freeze under the cloak. And Harry's like, I need to go to Hagrid because that's my impulse. And the other two are like, no, dude,
No.
you absolutely can't. There's no, I mean, it's obviously too late. Like, Dumbledore's there, like, we got this. So they head back toward the castle. But Scabbers is really misbehaving. Isn't that just, like, so unusual for your ordinary rat to be just so misbehaving?
This is what I don't get is that, like, if he had just chilled, literally none of the other, like, ensuing events in the rest of this novel would happen. You
It's
know?
gotta be. So, well, maybe, right? Like, as long as he's on the grounds, there's a problem because he's on the Marauders map.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Crookshanks is not like a normal cat.
Crookshanks is half Kneasel.
Crookshanks is half Lily Potter. Like,
Yeah.
there's no way she's anything else or he's anything else. Crookshanks also.
Who
They,
knows?
yeah. Weird. I never thought of Crookshanks as a male cat. Anyway.
I didn't either, and I always thought it was because I have a friend who has a female cat named Crookshanks, but there's also that weird thing where it's like dogs are boys and cats
I was
are
gonna
girls.
say, yeah, I've like always in my life associated cats are girls and dogs are boys.
Yeah. But so Scabbers' behavior here, Peter Pettigrew's fucking behavior
Peter
here
Pettigrew.
is hard to understand because the grounds is where Crookshanks and fucking Sirius Black are roaming wild and free. So, like, why is he trying so hard once he leaves the safety of Hagrid's hut to, like, get onto the grounds? You would think he would do anything possible to, like, be shepherded safely to the dormitory at that point.
Yeah. I think we've questioned before, though, how much, like, human logic is happening for him at this point. He's been a rat for a really long time.
He has been a rat for
There could
a
just
really long
be
time.
just, like, some instinctual things happening.
Yeah, quote, Scabbers was plainly terrified, and, like, yeah, okay, so then Crookshanks shows up, and for the first time in the entire fucking book, Hermione is like, no, not this fucking cat right now. Oh my god. Which, like, to be really honest, as a cat parent, is like, that's how cat parents be. They're like, you don't, like, get out of my way. Like, you're a stupid cat. Like, because cats feel that way about you. So it has to be, like, a back and forth thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, Hermione basically is like, for the love of God, fuck off, like, Crookshanks.
Can Crookshanks, or maybe it's explored in a later chapter, can Crookshanks see them through the invisibility cloak?
Well,
It's unclear.
it's
Unclear.
unclear.
That's what I'm confused about, is that Scabbers seems to be very terrified that Crookshanks is there. But if they're under the invisibility cloak, then there shouldn't be any reason for
The
him to
fact
freak
that
out.
anything penetrates the invisibility cloak pisses me off so much. It should be
because
a
it is-
Marauder's
it is-
map.
Death's own cloak.
Right.
Yes.
Like, it should be impervious. It's like
Yeah.
the rock cloak from Lord of the Rings. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yes, yes.
There's, like, the folklore that cats have 9 lives, okay? And then a Kneazle is, like, a magical equivalent of a cat. So what if it's not cats that have 9 lives, it's Kneazles? And so they have this, like, understanding of death. You know what I mean? That's just, like, a random headcanon.
I like
just
that.
invented.
I like that. But in this particular instance, the text does say that, Harry wasn't sure whether Crookshanks found them because Scabbers was making a lot of noise,
Yes.
or if he could see through the stone.
He has also wondered before if Mrs. Norris could see through the cloak. And that bitch is
Yeah.
a regular ass cat. That's not a fancy magic cat.
We don't know that that's true, though.
I mean, just like her
We've
attitude.
theorized. We've theorized.
I think, like...
Oh, yeah, you're right. We've theorized that it's, like, Filch's, like, sister or wife
Yeah.
or something.
Well, like, the fact that there can be 3 unregistered animaguses, animagus, animagi at all, to me is like, you can trust 0 animals are what they
It's
say.
true.
Yes!
Yeah.
Turns suspiciously to my cat.
They're
Right.
all hang on. Let's
That's not
freeze for a
Crookshanks,
second.
That's Daedalus Diggle.
Liz.
Let's talk for a second about how the audiobooks pronounce, like, animagus, and because I remember specifically the Jim Dale one is like animagi or something, and I remember being like,
I am okay.
fuck, no.
I have to listen to the audiobook at 1 times speed. Jim Dale reads the slowest of any human being alive. But I found the CDs and I bought a car with a CD player, so now I just have to.
You bought the car for the sole purpose of listening to the Harry Potter
Yes.
audiobooks.
No, I bought the car because it fit 2 car seats. But then I got into it and I was like, it's
That's
got a
what you'll tell the kids.
6 disc changer. Oh yeah, we're doing this right now.
Put it in all of and every disc is a different disc in the Prisoner of Azkaban audio.
Prisoner of Azkaban is 10 discs, so I had to do like 1 through 6 and then,
Yeah.
you know,
Put
7
it
through
on
10.
shuffle and get real confused.
Oh my god. What a nightmare.
So Ron drops Scabbers. Crookshanks gives chase. There's going to be a lot of, like, curt action sentences in my notes here.
Yeah.
I just want to point out the fact that Rowling uses the word it says Crookshanks, Hermione moaned. No, go away. And I'm like, I don't think moaned is the right word here. And then she uses it again later
Yeah.
when Hermione is like yelling, should be like fussing after Ron. It says just Ron in
It's like a
italics.
couple lines
Hermione
down.
moaned.
Yeah.
I kind of get it. I don't know. Okay, so she's whining the name Ron, and just as a reminder to everyone, my husband's name is Sean. So there's definitely, like, it's not hard to, like, moan a name that sounds like that, you know what I mean? Not in a, that sounded
You know what? I think
Wow.
we're like getting
And-
to it.
But no, it'd just be like, Ron.
Anyway, and so it might be just because I was listening to a podcast where they were going through like the quote unquote like rules that an author should follow, and one of them was about like
dialogue tags.
There's a lot of conflicting like quote unquote advice or whatever about how to use dialogue tags.
Yeah.
And like, because I remember my high school teacher being like, if you can use a more descriptive word than said, use that.
Yes.
You know, it shouldn't always just be, you know, Hermione said, Harry said, Ron said.
Snape ejaculated Slughorn. So goes a quote from Harry Potter that former guest William shared in our Facebook group. It says, "A note to all aspiring novelists. Sometimes you should just use said." And then someone follows up by saying, "Snape, he nutted."
And so I've really noticed it on this page in particular because it says like, it says Hermione, Ron hissed, Hermione whispered, Hermione moaned, and then she moaned again. Harry muttered. He does a lot of muttering in this series.
Fucking Harry and his muttering.
I don't know. It was just something that it has nothing to do with this chapter. I don't know. I just like really noticed it. And I guess that was maybe like a writing style of the times. And especially since this is like a quote unquote, you know, children's book or like early teen book at this point in the series.
I do think this book, more than the first two, is so satisfying. Like, I think that this is when her editor was like, this is the one, right?
Oh, yeah.
It is the one.
It's going to get better.
Grace and I were like chatting today and I was like, this chapter.
Oh, this chapter is excellent.
It brings everything to a head, right? It's like, this is why we kept visiting Scabbers. This is why we kept talking about Crookshanks.
So well done. This story is so well executed. Oh my God. Okay, wait, shut up. Let's get there.
So yeah, we can continue talking.
So Ron drops Scabbers. Crookshanks gives chase. Ron throws the cloak off of him and as well gives chase. He disappears into the dark. Night has just fallen, right? Like 1 second ago, it became pitch black outside. So he disappears into the darkness. And Ron and Hermione take off after him. And they can't run with the cloak. It's streaming out behind them.
I do like that image, though, of them trying to run together under the cloak for a second. That does seem
It's like the littlest, fastest steps.
Yeah.
But they're like, it's dark. Who cares? Like, let's, I mean, there's priorities right now. Okay, so they find Ron on the ground. They almost run over him. He's forcing Scabbers back into his pocket. No offense, but like, I would have beyond given up on Scabbers by now. Like, go, dude. Fuck you. Go. Like, I've already come to terms with your death. Go into the woods, see if I care.
You weren't hardly in even the second book. Just get out, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you guys think? Would you be like so aggressively trying to get him?
I mean, it's his pet. It's like supposedly the first like thing that he's had that's like just his, like specially his, and he's lived his whole life getting
down though.
Yeah, it's still a hand-me-down.
Is Scabbers a hand-me-down?
Yeah, from
His
Percy.
wand is not.
How
His
long did
wand in this book
Percy-
is brand new.
Percy
Oh, it is brand new this time.
ostensibly had Scabbers for like 10 years before he passed him along to Ron.
Can you imagine Peter Pettigrew?
He's a Pettigrew.
He gets passed along to Ron. He's like, "Oh, cool, okay. The new Weasley boy is my owner. That's fine." And then he goes. He's
Best friends
sitting.
with Harry.
Yeah, and then he's sitting on Ron's lap in the train, and then Harry like sits down in front of it. That's not actually how it happened. It was the reverse, but whatever. And then Peter Pettigrew is just like, "Fuck."
I do think Peter Pettigrew is the rat is like a detail that she was like, I've decided as I sit down to write this third novel that Peter Pettigrew is the rat. The rat was something all along.
It was Peter all along. Okay, so like imagine this. You're Peter Pettigrew, you're a rat, right? And you're with this guy Percy, you're like, cool, I found this like wizard dude, he's gonna take care of me. And then Percy's like, I don't want this rat anymore. and gives you to his younger brother. And it's like, dude, you're not even like a good rat. Like Percy doesn't even want you anymore.
I just imagine little Percy like grooming little Peter Pettigrew and giving him like a little rat comb over and like.
Oh my God. And now the rat's like balding, like missing hunks of hair and like disgusting.
Yeah.
He's not good.
Oh my God.
Ron's
He's
probably a
not doing
terrible
okay.
owner. Like.
Yeah.
Yeah, he definitely is like a really great, like, kid pet owner. He's like, yeah, I feed him from the table. And it's like, well, maybe rats shouldn't be eating, like, onions.
But he's also
and
not a
stuff.
rat. He's technically a human.
We've talked
so it
before
doesn't
about,
matter.
like, what is Peter Pettigrew's stomach? Because Ron talks about, like, how he likes fudge, which, like, animals aren't supposed to have chocolate. Anyway, okay, we're not going back there. So they're in the pitch darkness of the Hogwarts grounds, which I used to live in the woods. Y'all are from Roanoke. You used to live in the woods. Like, the woods is scary. I would not be out there in the pitch darkness.
I like this this perspective you have of Roanoke, that it's just
just
the
like-
woods.
Just the
Wait,
It is
hold
the
on.
woods.
Grace lived in like the woods, okay?
Yeah, like on the side of a mountain wood.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then the Blue
Very
Ridge
serious.
Parkway for me is right there. So like I'm near the woods, but right there's a cul-de-sac. So
But yes, we are all familiar with the concept of scary, spooky
Yeah, like
woods.
they're like deep. They're right next to the Forbidden Forest, and like night has fallen, and they have just like ostensibly. Fuck, I
It's a great word.
I learned that word recently. I used it too much. I got out of the habit, and now I'm using it again in this episode. Out of the darkness comes the Grim. Straight up, that's what Harry thinks it is when he sees it. He's like, that's the Grim that's been haunting me. It's a giant black dog, which this is where Haley would die. Because she'd be like, puppy!
I think we all, I would at least.
I probably would too.
I would have walked up to Sirius at the bus stop.
yeah, I would be like, wait a
Yeah.
minute, before we get on the bus, there's a dog, guys.
puppy.
Yeah.
There's a
We
dog
need to
over
call
there.
the SPCA. He's by himself.
Is he microchipped?
Yeah.
Speaking of bus, I would like to tell a brief anecdote.
Okay.
Before I recorded this episode, I was in downtown Richmond for a friend's happy hour birthday situation, and I was parallel parking my car, and I was like, oh no, there's a bus behind me, a city bus, and I'm in their way. So I was parallel parking in front of this bus. The bus creeps up next to me, and in my head, I'm like, please just go around me. Like, you have all this room to go around me. And instead, the bus driver stops the bus, opens the door, and is like, you got 6 inches. You got it. Come on. And he helped me parallel park my car with an entire bus full of
As
riders.
someone who has like been in some very struggling parallel parking situations, I think that's amazing.
It was hilarious. I was like, thank you so much. And like a whole bus full of people were like, why did we stop? And they were looking out the window at me successfully parking my car thanks
Like,
to that guy.
Oh, it's this dumb bitch trying to parallel park.
It was awesome. So, it's the Grim. Harry tries to pull out his wand, but the dog pounces on him and knocks Harry over. Okay, do we think Sirius is, like, fully human lucid right now?
I'm a little unclear on the details because I didn't finish the following chapter. Did Sirius still kill 12 other people?
No.
No.
Sirius
okay.
killed nobody.
Sirius killed nobody, but
He's
like
trying
ready.
to do his first murder tonight.
He's right. Yeah.
One
okay.
and
We
only.
will discuss when we get to that line, but
Yeah.
Sirius is just so extra.
He certainly is.
And I
but
love it.
So Sirius attacking Harry right here is the one part of this whole chapter and this whole novel where I'm like, writing is lost here. This
No,
doesn't
because
add
I
up.
think
Harry pulls a wand.
at least in the movie, it's implied that the reason he goes after Ron and not like Harry here or whatever is because he's going after Scabbers.
Right, but I'm wondering, so Sirius Black has never met Harry Potter before. His best friend's son who looks just like him. And like he hits him so hard in the chest that Harry wonders if he broke ribs, right? And so my question is Sirius thinking clearly? Is he driven by bloodlust right now?
Yeah.
I
Has
think
he
so.
been a dog too long, like Peter Pettigrew, even though Sirius has only been a dog for a couple months? Like, is he just like mad with the power of being so close to like murdering this guy that he's been trying to murder?
Yeah.
Probably, yes.
I
You
think so,
answered your
yeah.
own question.
I think it's hard to like if you know somebody has that capacity in them though, it's hard for me to be like, oh, he's this great godfather figure later on down the line.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, the flip side of it is that Harry pulls a wand on Sirius Black, and he's like, I don't want you to hurt me. I don't want to hurt you, so I'm going to jump on you. And he's like, oh shit, I forgot I'm like a giant dog.
Maybe.
Sorry if I accidentally broke a rib or two. That's like the flip side of it. That would be me in that situation. I'm not even trying to murder you. I'm trying to murder this other guy. I'm so sorry. I forgot I'm gigantic.
I think he's just trying to get to Ron / Scabbers / Peter Pettigrew, and he isn't really paying attention to what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
And this is from Harry's perspective, and we all know that Harry is delicate. Sirius probably barely tapped him. He's completely fine.
Okay,
delicate.
there's like a whole narrative in this book about somebody getting literally barely tapped and being so sensitive, and the hippogriff dies, like, or almost dies.
Yeah, that is a great parallel.
So maybe Harry... this is one of my biggest complaints about people who discuss the Potter books. They call Harry an unreliable narrator. I could not disagree more. Harry's an amazing narrator.
Is that the end of your sentence?
I'll bring you on for another chapter later when I'll bring you on for my favorite chapter, the Cho Chang Madame Puttyfoot date chapter, where it's like Harry does not know what's happening to him.
Okay, Nick Carraway is a terrible narrator. Holden Caulfield is a terrible narrator. Harry gives you, like, the details and thinks like a teenage boy.
There was, like, some, on the internet, there'd just be posts floating around and you don't know where you saw them. But there was some post that was like, like Dumbledore could have been dating Buckbeak and, like, Harry wouldn't have noticed.
Yeah, exactly. I do like this implication, though, that, like, if we're calling Harry an unreliable narrator and, like, Sirius barely tapped him here, but he's blowing it out of proportion for the sake of his own story.
Yes.
Whereas earlier, what if Draco actually was, like, severely maimed? and
like, Buckbeak's murder was, like, like, totally
very justified.
Yeah.
And Harry was just like, it was just a little scratch. He's just a baby. And everyone's like, his arm was cut off and they had to reattach it.
So Ron steps, I love this detail. Ron steps in front of Harry to protect him.
Ron has a lot of Gryffindor moments here.
Yeah,
Ron is big Griff energy in the second half of this book. He was big bitch energy in the first half of this book. He's big Griff energy now. He steps in front of Harry because everyone always assumes that if there's something bad happening, the pursuer is going for Harry.
Well, that's what I think is funny about the, like, Sirius jumping. Oh, the way that it's narrated is like you're expecting for the dog to come and attack Harry, and then he just goes around.
Harry's like,
Harry.
I'm right
He's
here.
like, I'm here. Are you not going to attack me?
Yeah.
No.
Get me, God Daddy.
Dog Daddy, God Daddy. Oh my God.
Well, dog spelled backwards is God. So
Yes.
it works.
So the dog bites Ron's arm, and like, oh God, I just fucking love Ron so much in the books, dude. So the dog starts to drag Ron away. Maybe Ron's like, oh, I shouldn't have stepped in front of Harry like that.
I regret everything.
It drags him into the darkness. And so Harry's like, what's happening? And then something, for lack of a better word, whomps him.
I wonder what it could be.
What could it be?
It felt suspiciously like a willow.
Yeah,
branch.
Willow just
Interesting.
whomping you, yeah. And it whomps Hermione also.
Real Mad Mardigan energy there. Yeah.
And
It
thus
is-
commences the dumbest scene in all of the Harry Potter movies.
And
I will
thus
say that.
commences the whomping. Okay, so here I was like writing in all capitals about the movie here. Like,
Yeah.
It's so dumb. We'll
let's
talk
just
about it when
all-
we get to the
yeah,
movie.
like, let's just, like, all agree not to talk about the movie here, because I wrote a lot of things, and, like, I think we should just
I will
skip
have to bring it
because,
up later,
like,
but
let the
this scene is dumb.
let the purity of, like, how chaotically and, like, well executed this is in the books, like, let it be its own thing, and, like, let us not lead this conversation to the film.
Well,
There are
okay,
no
we'll see.
issues with the Prisoner of Azkaban film. I want to be very clear about that.
Ooh.
Indeed. You run a movie podcast, I'll bring you back on for a movie. Not this one, it's already been taken.
I was going to say, we've already scheduled that, and I'll be damned if he's taking my spot. Also, your child
imagine?
will be born by then, so...
Boring.
Are you doing it like this week? My child will be born like tonight.
Brief interlude. Special shout out to Tyler's baby for, by the grace of God, hopefully not being born until at least we're done
literally
recording
just
this.
jinxed it. We're 3 pages into the chapter.
I know.
So here's the contraction timer for the past like hour-ish. They're about 4 minutes 40 seconds apart.
Is that bad?
Wait, is she actively
she
having
in labor?
contractions?
Yeah, she's
don't
been
know
in
anything
labor for
about
like a week
babies.
and a half.
What?
Yeah.
Labor's insane.
So basically, you're in labor when your cervix opens, right? And then, so she's about 4 centimeters dilated, and now she's having intense contractions every 4-ish minutes. If we get down
Maybe
to
we
like
should-
3 minutes, then I need to worry.
Maybe we should keep talking then.
Yeah, let's keep going. Anyway,
This chapter.
special shout out to baby Carlin for the love of God holding on until the end of this episode. Okay, so they're getting womped. Okay, the dog is dragging Ron to a gap in the tree's roots, and Ron,
Gross.
it's so hard.
Just
for
say
me
it.
to
Just
read
say
this.
it and get it out.
Ron
Yeah.
hooks one of his legs around a root to try to stop himself, which I think I would do also, and you can hear it break audibly.
Like a gunshot. Why would she include that detail? There's no guns in Potter.
Wait, does it say like a gunshot? Listen.
A horrible crack cut the air like a gunshot. Ron's leg had broken.
Oh, it does say that.
It
wow.
does. I didn't remember that. Oh my god.
Yeah,
Okay,
it
well,
does say that.
that is disgusting. Okay, like I'm like medically queasy and like this upsets me.
You should come witness childbirth.
Hermione wants to go for help, but Harry's like, we need to. There's no time. There's no time.
And Hermione's like, funny you mention it.
Wow, good one. Okay, so Harry's trying to figure out how they can pursue him, and Hermione is, quote, dancing uncertainly and whispering, quote, help, help frantically. And, like, I
think that's hilarious.
I love how Hermione, especially in these first couple books, is so deeply not cool under pressure. Like,
Yeah.
why should she be cool under pressure, considering the way she was raised as, like, a cushy only child in like a very well-off family?
I should also mention she's a child. I think any child would be wigged out by this situation.
This is also Hermione at a time when, like, having time to think about things is so paramount to who she is because she can, like, travel through time. So in this, like, hectic, quick moment, she can't just be like, I need more time.
Yes, absolutely. And it's also worth noting that this is her last day of exams in what has been a deeply, like, we've been calling it sleep deprived.
I have no sympathy for Hermione Granger.
Well, but it's important to remember that her circadian rhythm is off. Her mental health is off. She's been off. Like, she's really, like, not okay mentally. So she's like, and today was her last day of exams. So she probably was like, wow, I'm gonna go to bed at 9 and wake up at noon. You know what I mean? And it's like, no.
Meanwhile, she's like, I have to go save these dumb boys.
Yeah.
And this dog and this rat and this werewolf and this hippogriff.
Yeah. So Crookshanks darts through the Whomping branches, and
They're like, what do we do? Convenient cat shows up and it's like, I know.
Let me tell you something about fucking cats, dude. Everything that Crookshanks does in this fucking chapter is like, that's such a fucking goddamn cat move. It's like, you've known how to pause the Whomping Willow this whole fucking year, and you've just been straight chilling. You've been sleeping on my bed.
Also that the Whomping Willow just has like
Like a
an
G-spot.
on-off switch.
Yeah.
A G-spot!
Let's call it what it is, okay?
Oh my god.
Sure.
Okay, I love it. Hermione's like, oh my god, Crookshanks, how'd you know how to do that? And then Harry's like, that your fucking cat is friends with this fucking dog that I thought I was hallucinating until this very night. Okay, like, your fucking cat and this fucking dog and this fucking rat, and that's the name of the chapter. So Crookshanks goes into the tunnel between the roots. Harry goes into the tunnel. Hermione goes into
First
the
of
tunnel.
all, Harry goes into the tunnel head first, and if that's not the most Harry thing I've ever fucking heard.
There's a oh shoot, I don't remember exactly where it is, but there is another great like classic like Harry like line of narration that's just like, yep, that's Harry Potter.
Harry did something very brave and very
stupid.
So they're walking along the tunnel. Harry's like, I remember this tunnel from the Marauders map. I know it goes to Hogsmeade, but I'm not sure exactly where it lets out. So they walk along the path, quote, bent almost double. So why? Okay, well, why is this tunnel like this? Why do they have to bend in half? Didn't Sirius Lupin? I said Sirius Lupin. Didn't Lupin try to get to the shack before he was like a wolf?
No, I think he had to go as a wolf.
Why would they let him transform
the whole thing is that
first?
the whole thing is that they put him in. I don't know. Maybe after years of this not being used, it's like maybe it needed to be maintained. I don't know.
Interesting.
It's a tunnel under the ground. You could say it's a secret. It's the joke.
I didn't know. I was ruining your joke.
I'm of the impression that there's not a building that you could describe as a shack that could hold a werewolf.
That's a great point.
Yeah. Fair.
Maybe it just looks that way from the outside, you know what I mean?
There's magic, right? There's like magic with no system, like unlimitedly fueled magic. Surely
this world has a lot of that.
Yeah.
But it could be like a fucking like safe house, like a Spy Kids level safe house, because that's the only safe house I've ever fucking seen in my life.
Danny Trejo's in there.
but on the outside it's enchanted to look like a fucking rundown shack or whatever.
The thing that I couldn't really wrap my mind around was the length of this tunnel. Like, it's miles. Is it miles?
I think it is miles.
Because it has to go from the Hogwarts ground to Hogsmeade. And the Shrieking Shack is, like, on the outskirts.
Ron was literally dragged for miles, is what.
With a broken leg.
I'm hoping he falls unconscious.
Let's say that.
Is that better?
It can't be like that
I think
far.
that's better
3
for now.
clicks does the trick, though, right? That's 3 hours.
If you're injured, in Ron's circumstance, I would hope that the pain knocked him out for the duration of his travel. Yeah.
Okay.
So the tunnel eventually ends. They come out into a room. I described it in our intro. Hermione says that she thinks they're in the Shrieking Shack. What a fucking nightmare thing to realize.
Mm-hmm.
And then Harry says they like see all this destruction, and Harry's like, a ghost didn't do that.
Yeah, there's there's chunks missing from furniture and shit. You're right, Peeves could have. Peeves would have.
Poltergeist.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they say this shit is haunted, but like ghosts did not do that. So they hear a creak from overhead. I guess it's like a proper house. This is where it's like not a shack. This is like a house. It's got levels. They hear a creak overhead, so they like move on. Hermione is grasping Harry's arm so fucking tight. I love her anxiety, dude. I really do. It's almost like she's not
and
a
Harry,
perfect,
like,
flawless character
Harry gives
who can
her
do no wrong.
a look, and it's like, can you fucking let go of me? And she's like, sorry. And let's go.
They go upstairs. They can see where Ron was dragged because the house is really dusty, but there's like a stripe. I like remember reading all of this so vividly when I was a kid, dude.
It's so funny you say that you remember reading it like super vividly, because like I was just about to say, when you were talking about like the dust and the drag marks, I was just going to call out the movie for having like such that amazing attention to detail for this scene too, because that's like really vivid in my head as well.
Alfonso Cuarón does no wrong.
Cuarón.
And like you can see
Mary Clay, say it.
I don't know.
Cuarón.
Cuarón.
Cormorant.
They had an opportunity there.
Quarantine.
He was cheaper and he was better than David Yates.
I want to clarify that, like, I don't have a disdain for Alfonso Cuarón. I just can't, I just physically can't say his last name. Anyway.
I can't remember this part from the movie, so that's cool to me.
It's so good. It's so good. It's so good.
All right, so Ron is in the room. What room? I don't know. It's a room. He's on the floor. He's grasping his broken legs while singular, while Crookshanks is purring beside him. This is not the first and not the last time that I noted classic cat shit. You're fucked up. I'm having a good time. I'm just gonna
say Crookshanks is happy. Also, like, Ron has been a total dick to Crookshanks this entire year, so...
we can't even get into the politics of Ron and Crookshanks right now, because Ron was right and Crookshanks was right.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying that, like, Crookshanks is probably, like, I mean, I'm not, like... I'm on your side. I'm gonna try and help you, but I'm also not exactly, upset that you're in pain.
Crookshanks is like, you can't kick me when your leg's broken.
This is true.
I think if Crookshanks wanted to eat Peter Pettigrew, he would have.
I kind of agree.
Crookshanks is the reason this is all happening. Fuck Crookshanks, actually. You know what? He could have ended this madness, and he chose not to.
I think if you eat a rat who is actually a person, you explode.
Okay, so they're like all in the room now, and Ron's like, it's a trap.
It's a trap!
The dog is an animagus, and then the door shuts behind them.
This is the scene that I remember so vividly from the movie that I think is really well done.
Maybe it's because of like when this book was released, but like I just so vividly remember reading this climax for the first time, dude. It like really affected me. This was like part of my journey to like becoming a fucking book lover, was like this fucking scene, dude. And it's like, it's not what we thought, and like the good guys are bad and the bad guys are good, and the rat is a person, and like it comes full circle, and like Hermione hasn't even told us her secret yet.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Okay. So the door shuts. There's a man in the shadows. Harry turns to look. It's Sirius Black. Quote, filthy matted hair. Quote, deep dark eye sockets. Quote, waxy skin stretched so tightly he looked like a skull. Quote, yellow teeth bared in a grin.
I want to point out that it says, if eyes hadn't been shining out of the deep dark sockets, because the eyes are something that JK uses like all the time.
She
for
loves her
descriptors.
twinkling eyes.
And his eyes are referenced like a couple times in this chapter, at least, of like there was like a flicker of, you know, I don't know, hesitation or like remorse or something in his eyes. So I don't know, just wanted to point that out.
So Sirius Black has Ron's wand. He immediately disarms Harry and Hermione. They kind of like engage in this conversation where Sirius Black is like saying one thing and Harry's kind of hearing something else due to his like misunderstanding of the situation. So Sirius Black is like, you came for your friend, your father would have done the same for me. And Harry's like, you're taunting me. Mm-hmm. And that like really gets Harry deep in his bloodlust. He is like, I want my wand back so I can do murder. Like he really is. He's like, he doesn't want to defend himself. He wants to do murder.
So here's the question. Does Harry know any murder spells?
No.
He's gonna Wingardium Leviosa a rock onto your face.
And this is where I think a Harry Potter musical / a Harry Potter sequel franchise is hilarious, because they make fun of the fact that like they're like first years and second years, and so the spells they know are like, I'm gonna throw everything I know at him: Lumos, the tickling charm, the bubblehead charm, everything.
Wow, check us out over the summer if you want to hear us cover a Harry Potter musical.
If you don't have me on, I will leave this podcast.
What?
Wow.
Why?
What? Wait, why?
I said because I love that musical. Did I not come through clear? You have to have me on for that.
You said don't have me on.
I said if you.
We didn't hear the if you. We just heard.
Didn't hear that bit.
I heard don't have me on. I will leave, and I was like, I don't see a way out.
I'll do both.
Oh, okay. Bye.
No, if. Please have me on. I love that show so much. Anyway.
The interesting thing in this moment to me is that Sirius Black and Harry Potter have the exact same motivation in this moment. They're both trying to avenge the murder of James and Lily Potter by killing the person who caused their murder.
They think is responsible,
Yeah, and I think that's so cool. I love it.
I think it's so funny how, Sirius didn't raise Harry, and they're not biologically related, but they have a lot of the same tendencies.
I love it. I do really love it. Was James Potter a jackass? Yes. Is Sirius Black sometimes a jackass? Yes. Is Harry sometimes a jackass? Yes. But like the way that they clearly all are the same type of dude, you know what I mean? It's very rewarding.
And Sirius didn't raise Harry, but Harry was raised in a very similar situation to Sirius. Oh my gosh, the hot take.
You're right.
I know.
Oh my god. Yeah. Wow.
Oh, anyway, so he's trying to murder everyone.
And they both live in like a safe house. Yeah.
Yeah. Spy Kid safe house. Just kidding. So Harry with his bloodlust, physically lunges for Black with no wand.
I keep interrupting you. I'm sorry, but I just want to point out that Sirius Black, it says there'll only be one murder here tonight.
Is Sirius Black trying to terrify these children?
Yes. He's just insane.
This drove me nuts reading this. Like, just tell them.
Just be like, I'm here to murder the rat. Oh!
He's talking about murder and grinning ever more broadly. Like, I get that he is probably a little unhinged. We've all been talking about, will we even know how to socially interact after the pandemic's over? Well, will Sirius Black even know how to socially interact after being in prison for 12 years?
Let's all say when we get out of quarantine, it'll be what is it? 12 years of it in quarantine. My audio spike is amazing. Have fun editing that.
It's amazing. So I don't think he's trying to scare them. I think he just really does not really. He's like so overwhelmed with like what's happening that he's just not even thinking about how much of a murderer he's seeming like.
Maybe because we learn more about Sirius in the other books, maybe he just wants to cause a little more chaos than necessary.
You never know.
Or maybe because he's part puppy, he's like smiling, he's like wagging his tail.
I don't know why. I've never heard her referred to as part puppy. That's the funniest shit.
I think he's wait. When Sirius first became an animagus, do you think he was like a puppy and then he had to like grow into a full...
into like a big dog?
Yeah. And they're like, we're going to become these animagus to help our friends. And they're like, I'm a deer. I'm a rat, which somehow helps us protect our werewolf friend. That's fine. And then it's just Sirius as a puppy.
I love it. It's very cute.
That would make Peter Pettigrew like itty bitty baby rat.
A little baby
Yeah,
rat.
I guess they would all be babies.
Yeah, they would have to all be babies.
That would be so cute.
That's so
cute. Harry really... classic Harry move, screams, "He killed my mom and dad!"
All caps.
And there's a lot of all caps in this chapter. And he lunges at Sirius Black, full of bloodlust. Harry forces Sirius Black's wand hand away, and, like, I guess he punches him. The language, like, doesn't really describe it like a good punch, but it, like, fist connected. It's like, it does... The language is funny to me, but...
It does say, the knuckles of Harry's other hand collided with the side of Black's head.
That's not a good punch. So it doesn't sound
like it was intentional. I'm just imagining they're just like...
They're just like fucking scrap. Remember when Harry and Ron fight in like the last movie or the second to last movie? That is what I imagine is happening here. They're like wrestling. Mm-hmm. It's confusing. I wrote that in my notes. I wrote they're wrestling and it's confusing. They fall into a wall. Sirius Black starts choking Harry. Hermione comes and kicks Sirius Black, so he lets go, and then Ron somehow gets involved even though he has a broken leg and gets Sirius Black to drop his wand. Harry goes for the wand, but Crookshanks scratches him. Quote, Crookshanks had joined the fray. I love it. A fucking cat, dude.
Crookshanks has entered the fight, you know? Like,
also, like, not to be this way, but, like, a cat clawing you, like, you can still achieve your goal. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it hurts, but it's not gonna, like, physically stop
Crookshanks
you.
is like a lion. Disagreed. You're not achieving your goal here.
We established earlier in this episode, though, that maybe Harry likes to blow things out of proportion.
He's delicate.
So maybe, he's a delicate little baby. So maybe it was just a little scratch. It's like, owie.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you've never been clawed by a cat before and a cat claws you, you would pause. But really, it's not going to stop you. Like, you'll be okay. So Harry aims a kick at Crookshanks, and my understanding is that he, like, doesn't have to execute the kick. Crookshanks is like, that's a kick.
Fine.
Yeah.
And he backs
out of the way.
And that's how you know that Crookshanks is not your standard house cat. Because a standard house cat does not get out of the way when you threaten them with a kick. I know from experience, you have to actually kick them. I would never kick my cats. But sometimes they're in the middle of the staircase and you do have to nudge them with your toe hard.
You ever nudge them with your toe? This happens to my dogs all the time. Like, you gotta like nudge them and you're like, oh my god, but you're so warm. And then you just kind of like stand there.
Yes, I have been entrapped, which is what you're describing is entrapment.
That's why, like, kings and like royalty in the ye olden ages would have like pugs, as they would, in these tiny dogs, as they would have them to sleep at the foot of like in like under their covers,
special spaniels
to like warm
for
their
this.
feet.
That's adorable.
Wait,
They
I don't
bred
like
special
it.
spaniels. They're the Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. Every Cavalier is British royalty. They're the most common form of British royalty.
What? I knew a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel.
My parents have 2 of them, so
What?
not only are we YouTubers, but we have British royalty in the family.
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ.
Okay, Sirius fucking chokes Harry? What?
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
I think that's a self-defense thing.
I think it's a little Wolf Star, like Remus liked it, so maybe you will.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Whoa!
No, that's not until the next page.
I know, I get so excited.
Man. I've never even begun to talk about Wolfstar on this podcast because...
Let me tell you something. I didn't ship it until you were like, you have to read this chapter, and then I was like, oh, they're in love.
They're in love. Adele, if you're out there, this one's for you. They're in love.
It is a lot more interesting if you read, like, when he comes in and they have this, like, cryptic conversation where, like, they say things, but they don't really say things. And if you, like, replace the word werewolf with gay or, you know, or like, oh, it was actually you know, whatever. It's like, you know what? This hits different. This would be way better if it's also just everyone's dream to imagine a world in which Sirius got to keep Harry somehow, and he and Lupin raised Harry together as a gay couple.
Lupin is the only acceptable...
And it would have been amazing.
What's the word?
Guardian?
Guardian.
I was like, guidance. That's not right. So Harry finally gets his wand, and he tells Ron and Hermione to get out of the way. And it's like, you didn't have to tell them twice. First of all, Ron collapses on the bed because he has a broken leg. And the fact that he has come so far is incredible.
Why haven't they just, like, repairoed that shit?
No
Do they not know reparo?
No.
or anything?
I'm not sure you can do that on book.
At least do something like really rudimentary to maybe, because it mentions that like it's bent at a weird angle. At least do something to
They
maybe
need Gilderoy
unbend it.
Lockhart. That's the thing.
You know,
Grace, you shut your damn whore mouth. That is the last thing this situation needs is Gilderoy
can you
Lockhart.
imagine if instead of Snape, I mean, spoiler alert.
Wow.
What if instead of Snape who burst in, it was Gilderoy Lockhart?
Well, the thing with the end of this book is that, like, I don't really remember what happens when. So this whole chapter, I was like, where's Snape? Where's Snape, the party killer? Like, this scene could have gone really well if Snape never shows up.
It's
you know
so,
what I mean?
the thing is, though, is that he shows up after all of the crucial information has been revealed.
I
It's
remember
after
now.
that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because that's when he comes to fuck shit up. And they're like, if you had been here 5 minutes ago, you would have heard, but you weren't.
I also think there's a chance here, as long as we're talking about shipping characters, that Snape was in love with one of these two as well. Because like we know the like who's Lily thing, right? That was stupid and predatory, and I didn't like it at all. But think about this: if like Snape and Lupin were lovers, but Lupin was also with Sirius, and like James kept bullying him because James was like kind of publicly homophobic, except for his boys. You know, like I don't know.
Wow.
It was the 80s, man. You could do this stuff.
My personal preferred headcanon, one of our former guests, Danny, laid this on me, and I haven't been able to forget it since, that it's not Lily that Snape was obsessed with, but it's James Potter. And to me, that makes this whole story makes so much more sense, honestly.
That.
And so the reason that he appears to have been obsessed with Lily is because it's like Lily was fulfilling this role that he couldn't. That's my preference.
Cool.
Anyway,
So
I think what is undeniable here is that there's some real hot gay shit going on.
quote, there's some real hot gay shit going on, Harry moaned.
No!
It says like embraced him like a brother, and it was like, oh, step bro, okay.
Like a brother
Like
or
a brother.
possibly a lover.
You could be
Anyway,
my brother,
so
lover.
Harry's ready to kill Sirius, and they're all
Yeah.
like, do you even know how to kill,
Harry,
bro?
Harry has his wand leveled. I didn't even think about that while I was reading this chapter because he spends a lot of the language of this chapter trying to muster the courage, but like we don't address the fact that he genuinely doesn't know how to kill somebody.
And Sirius, or I guess I should, at this point, we're calling him Black.
Black.
I think this is so, I love the switch in this book when it starts referring to him as Sirius instead of Black.
Yeah.
But it says, "Going to kill me, Harry," he whispered. And I'm like, Sirius, you fucking chaotic nightmare.
Honestly, at this point, Sirius is like, if you killed
like,
me,
you know what?
that would be the circle of life and I'd
for
be
it.
happy.
It's like, go
Yeah.
for it.
Well, he would. I think he's okay with Harry killing him because he's like, that's what James would do. Like, they weren't Ravenclaws. Like, they were like,
That is
good one,
true.
James.
That
You
is
know,
true.
he's like, if I knew what Harry knew, I would kill me.
Me too,
Yeah, but
that's
also you have to remember that Sirius does blame himself.
And he even says it. He's like,
Yeah.
I would say that I killed your parents. And it's like, oh, man, you might want to
It's like,
explain
no,
some stuff
that's-
real
Yeah,
quick.
he's like, I
Let's
don't
clarify.
deny it.
Yeah.
He
So-
doesn't deny it, and that's because he does blame himself.
That's why Lupin's the teacher.
With Harry's wand in his face, Sirius finally starts to insist that Harry doesn't know the whole story. Harry doesn't really want to hear it. A lot of the rest of this chapter is adults being like, wait, listen to reason, and the children screaming no. So, like, Harry's like, I'm still gonna murder you. Crookshanks goes over and sits on Black's chest and is like, no, you have to murder both of us, which also, that's some real hot cat shit.
If I was Harry, I would have been like, okay, and?
Well,
Because Crookshanks is Lily.
Harry's
telling
trying to work up the courage to kill Crookshanks and Sirius. So it's like he's like, I'm ready to kill Sirius Black, and then the Crookshanks goes over and he's like, okay, no, I can kill a cat and a murderer. Like, I can do this.
Crookshanks is straight up Lily Potter. There's no other hope. Like, basically, JK takes this to her editor and is like, there's 3 animagus, and she's like, the editor's like, you can't have 3. You can't have 3. So like, there's spots where they describe Crookshanks' eye color. Why? Because they were talking about how Crookshanks had green eyes, and she was like, gotta change it to yellow.
Well, I have heard the fan theory before, and I'm sorry that I don't remember who any theories belong to anymore, but someone has brought to me the theory before that Crookshanks belonged to the Potters before they
I've
were
seen
killed. You know, the idea that Crookshanks, has some Lily resemblance could track.
Although also the idea that maybe if it was the Potter's cat and Harry was a baby, was a 1-year-old. 1-year-olds don't treat animals super gently. And so this idea that like Crookshanks is like holding this 12-year grudge against Harry because I think it mentions like in that letter that Harry finds in Deathly Hallows that was like written to Sirius from Lily, it mentioned something about like Harry was like messing with the cat or was like pulling on the cat's tail or something. So here's Crookshanks being like, kill me, bitch. You won't do it.
I knew you when you were a fucking baby.
And Harry's like, bet.
You were a
Except,
jerk baby.
just kidding.
Too.
A jerk
I don't
baby.
know. I don't know the killing spell.
Okay,
Like,
but
Alohomora.
That's the thing is, like, the way that this scene is crafted, it makes it seem like it's Harry's conscience that is what prevents him from, like, murdering outright. But, like, it really doesn't
Just
address the
imagine-
fact that he doesn't know how to murder
Just
people.
that we cut to the inside. So, because it says when he, it says like he had to kill Black. This was his chance. ... The seconds lengthened, and still Harry stood frozen there, wand poised. And I just imagine we cut to the inside of Harry's brain, and it's just like crickets are just like running around. Like little mini Harrys are running around, frantically opening books, being like, "Do we remember anything that maybe Hermione was rambling to us about?
Anything about murder. Like,
Anything about murder?"
So, with Crookshanks on Sirius Black's chest, Hermione gave a dry sob. Is this because she's finally realizing that realizing in quotes that her cat is like, yes, actually not only poorly behaved, but also maybe evil?
Perhaps. I also know that JK is making a real statement about dry sobs in this book because she clearly notes Hermione's dry sobbing, but in the previous
moaning.
chapter,
Don't forget the
Hagrid
moaning.
like sends them a letter and it's dry because he wasn't crying.
Interesting. It's like we're past crying.
Right. Like things have just gotten so bad.
How do you dry sob? I know how to dry heave.
I know
Don't
exactly.
know how to dry sob.
Dry sobbing is when, I mean, wait, do you really not know what that means?
No, and I know what it means, but like I don't think I could like I don't think I've ever physically dry
Do
sobbed.
you cry?
Well, I'm a Cancer sign, and I've cried every different way. And dry sobbing is one of them. It's like when you wish you were still crying, but you're out of tears, kind of. And Anyway.
You're really dehydrated.
Can't wait to experience it.
If you're like a bottle and a half through some like Apothic Red and
Whoa, Apothic Red! Oh my god, I almost said soul sisters. We're soul siblings.
We can be soul
Apothic
sisters.
Red! Okay, so Harry is like, I'm really trying to muster some murder here. And in his hesitation, we hear footsteps downstairs. And Hermione, in what I consider to be exactly the right move, starts screaming bloody murder. She's like, we are here! Like, come on, we're here. We're right here. Please, as long as you're not literally Lord Voldemort, anything is better than this situation I'm in.
I should say she's very specific, because as opposed to just being like, help us, she says, we're up here, Sirius Black.
So the person who comes is like ready with the wand.
Because I feel like this is like, I don't know, textbook definition of like how to like make sure, kind of like how if you yell, I don't know,
like
no,
when
yelling
someone,
fire isn't the thing.
No. I think I know exactly what you're talking about. It's like when someone is like, for example, having a heart attack. You don't say, someone call 911. You say, you call 911. It's like specificity to help the situation.
Good job pronouncing that word, because I can never pronounce that word right the first time. Yeah, it's always specificity.
Alfonso
Shut up, you didn't know how to spell misogyny 3 days ago.
I don't know how to spell one freaking word, okay?
Misogyny? Let's talk about the most misogynistic thing ever. The most misogynistic thing ever in the history of humanity is how impossible it is to spell the word misogyny.
I do want to, okay, I have a
Where are the Y's? Where are the I's? I don't know.
There is, this is such an important parallel because it's major spoilers.
Okay. Spoilers.
Harry finds Sirius Black, right? The man who killed his father, ready to perform an unforgivable curse. But he just can't do it because he doesn't know the unforgivable curse.
Stupid idiot.
Details.
Bellatrix Lestrange kills Sirius. Harry straight up tortures her.
Oh my god.
Well,
succeeds.
Sort of.
Whatever, he does the unforgivable curse. Harry's unforgivable.
He says
you have to mean it.
But it says something like,
you have to mean it.
When he did it to Bellatrix, she like twitched a little bit and it didn't really have any effect on her.
But he does it.
Really
does it.
You have to mean it.
And he knows the words then.
It is because he knows the words. That helps a lot.
Because he can't be forgiven because he does an unforgivable curse.
Okay, so in this
moment... technically
Bellatrix
doesn't kill Sirius. She hits him with a stunning spell, then he falls into the black veil.
Anyway. Shut up about the veil! I'm not ready!
Mary Clay.
What?
If you push me off a bridge and I die, you killed me. You killed me.
Yeah, but she didn't. It was the proximity to the. You know what? We're not.
If a sniper sets up like a gun that's triggered by a button, and then I press the button that happens to be an elevator, and someone dies, I didn't kill them.
If we're standing near a cliff and I like intend to just give you a shove, but not push you off the cliff, and then you like stumble backwards, I would then say that's an accident.
No, you still killed me.
That's the real Slytherin energy, Mary Clay.
Yeah, you definitely still killed me there. I think the hang
it was an accident.
with the
I didn't
veil.
Intend to kill. I'm not trying to defend Bellatrix.
The hang up with the veil is not that
clarifying.
Bellatrix pushed him through. It's that the veil doesn't kill you.
Okay, guys.
No.
Tyler, if you'd like, I'll have you back on for that chapter.
We'll come on for this Department of Mysteries.
Well done, Mary Clay. I can always rely on you for the impression.
We destroyed the time turners.
The incredibly random quotes from the movies that I do all the time.
Guys, Professor Lupin has entered the chat.
Oh, we're saved. It's all going to go splendidly from here on out.
That's a joke that Grace made like a whole book ago about Professor Lupin that I really liked. But
what's happening? Wait.
I'm going to have a baby.
You're kidding.
Yes.
It's happening right now?
You're kidding.
Right now. Yes, I got to go.
Oh my God!
Tyler!
It should be happening right now. If not, this is going to be super embarrassing in like 6 hours.
It was super embarrassing in like 6 hours.
This is so exciting!
Oh my God. Yay!
I would have preferred 420, but...
Go!
Okay,
go!
bye. I'm going to stop my recording. Bye.
Stop!
Oh my
Email
gosh!
me tomorrow!
Send pics! Okay.
Oh
Save
God,
it, yeah.
Tyler!
You have to leave the Zoom call, you know.
No, just leave it. Okay.
Does he not realize? You know what? It's fine. Hang on. I need to take a screenshot and send this to these doofuses. Oh my god.
Wow.
Oh my god.
As the prophecy foretold. Amazing.
We got through most of this chapter. I'm proud of that baby.
That baby did great.
So, guys, I don't know how we're gonna do this without Tyler, but like, we need to finish the chapter.
Yeah.
How do we continue on with the rest of the conversation when we know that a
don't know.
child
The show
is going
must
to be
go
brought
on.
into the world?
My next note is about how much I love Lupin because he reminds me of Sean so much. Which is not a direct parallel because Sean is not having a baby right now, but just like good husbands doing their job, you know?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Like, Lupin comes into this situation calm, collected, and here to get to the bottom of things. And, like, that's how Sean approaches everything. And I just, like, I love it so much. Like, for someone like me who's, like, prone to really, like, emotionally react to stuff, it's like, if I were Harry, Ron, and Hermione, I would be, or even to every person who's involved in the scene other than Peter fucking Pettigrew, like, it is such a great relief that Lupin is here.
I love this note. It says his voice shook with some suppressed emotion. And I love that. 'Cause this is like very, like, this is clearly him trying to remain calm, cool, and collected. But at the same time, like, up until this moment, he thought he was alone in the world because his best friend, you know, James is dead. And his other best friend, he thought, literally up until this moment, he thought it was Sirius who caused it, and he thought his other friend, Peter Pettigrew, was dead. And then now his world is turning, and he's looking at his friend who up until this moment, you know, he hasn't seen him in 12 years, up until this moment, thought betrayed their best friends and is confronting him, you know, him for the first time, and all of this traumatic experience that they've gone through as well. So it is very emotional.
Honestly, when I was in college, I had a really big falling out with a friend because of a lot of complicated shit. And then, like, 4 years later, I hooked up with her in Denver and we got drinks together and we were both, like, crying about how stupid we were for those 4 years. And it's like, but it's that times 3 because 12 years of it.
Yeah, and the stakes are a little bit higher than just
for sure. But
friendship falling out,
for
friends being murdered.
This whole book, I have been like, let's all think about, like, what Lupin is feeling right now. Because Lupin, more than anyone else, I think, lost everything that night. You know,
Yes.
like, Sirius Black lost everything, but, like, Sirius Black knew the story. And Lupin lost everything. Including an understanding of, like, what had happened.
He's left behind with all of these pieces that don't necessarily fit together.
Yes.
And
he knew the whole time that it wasn't quite right.
he's also lost, like, his only support system.
Yes. The whole thing. Oh my god. Okay.
Very sad.
So Lupin immediately disarms Harry and Hermione. Why does he do this?
I think because he doesn't want them to overreact to anything.
Yeah.
And also maybe from, like, the adult perspective of, like, if anyone's going to do the murdering, it should probably be me and not these 13-year-old children.
If there's
Not
gonna
that
be
they
murder.
even know how.
Yeah, true.
That is
He's like, I need all the wands because I know how to do all the murder. So Lupin says, "Where is he, Sirius?" Sirius Black points at Ron. The kids are confused.
They're like, what the fuck is going on?
Lupin's like muttering to himself, trying to work things out. He's like, unless you, like, this doesn't make sense, blah, 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 unless you switched. AKA.
Without telling me.
AKA
Yeah.
switched being the secret keeper. God, this is just such, like, the whole
It's so
fucking
good.
series is this moment. Ah!
It's crazy. It's really crazy.
I haven't, like, this book. Grace and I were talking about this on work time earlier today. This book is, like, so meaningful in a way. The resolution to this book is so meaningful in a way that the last 2 books have not been. I'm, like, overwhelmed with emotion right now. Okay.
So hold on one second. I just want to point out this phrase. It says, Lupin muttered, staring at Black so intently it seemed he was trying to read his mind. Is Lupin a legilimate, or... Like, do you think that's...
I think that's, like, a descriptive thing. Like, he's trying to, like, look into his friend's eyes and be like, are you guilty?
He's trying to read his face.
Yeah.
Okay,
Because I
okay.
feel like my very best friends, I could look... Lupin has not laid his naked eye upon Sirius Black since before everything went down. And I feel like I could literally lay an eye upon my very best friends and know exactly what happened. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily know that I could look into the eyes of my friends and automatically know that they had switched being secret keepers without telling me.
But like, you know what I'm saying? Like, are you like an innocent good man?
Betrayed them to Voldemort, and then and then turned into a rat and killed 12 people and cut off his thumb. And
Mary Clay, you need to get some better friends, girl.
So Lupin lowers his wand and helps Sirius Black up off the ground, and they hug, which is cute. But Lupin in this moment must also be overwhelmed with emotion, because he really should be like, hey guys, don't worry, I'm gonna like hug this guy, we're gonna like figure it out. He's doing it's almost like he's intentionally trying to like make the Gryffindors mad, you know what I mean? It's like let me just hug the worst guy on earth, you know?
And a great moment again. I just love these moments in the movie is so well done. Also, the actors themselves are just so good in these roles and in this scene too. That's like all I can. Granted, that's just what happens when you see the movies first. But
Well, after we record this, I'm like just gonna watch that scene.
This scene, yeah,
it's gonna be great.
So, as a reader, you're like, Harry's mad. He's about to lose his shit. But it's not Harry who loses his shit. It's Hermione. Hermione starts screaming. She says, I don't believe it. She's livid that she covered for Lupin for a year, and now he is evidently evil. She covered up for him for being a werewolf. She realized this during Snape's essay on werewolves. And Lupin's like, wow, Snape would be delighted to hear that. Lupin's like, literally like, let me tell you what's up. And the kids are like, no, don't tell us what's up. So in a show of faith, Lupin gives the kids their wands back and he puts his away. And then he kind of just like reveals a lot of things. He's like, I was looking at the Marauders map. Yes, I know how to work it. Yes, I helped make it. Yes, I'm Moony from the Marauders map. I saw someone leaving Hagrid's hut with you. And they're like, no, you didn't. That's stupid. It was just the three of us. Lupin says, let me look at your rat. Scabbers. Scabbers is not okay. So Lupin and Black together, they're speaking kind of like in tandem, are like, Scabbers is literally an animagus by the name of Peter fucking Pettigrew. And then the chapter just ends there.
And again, this is another... It's the perfectly alliterative name, Peter Pettigrew. That like the way that like certain lines pronounce his name from the movies, and this is a great serious moment in the movies where he's like Peter Pettigrew.
And if you would like to learn more about Peter Pettigrew and how much of a gigantic bastard he is, please subscribe to our Patreon, because last Saturday, our Patreon bonus episode for the month was a Behind the Bastards episode about Peter Pettigrew and what a fucking bastard he is.
Oh my god, I'm so excited.
So catch us over there.
I want to double back real quick though and talk about how like when it was first revealed that Lupin is a werewolf, yes, and like Hermione and like Remus is like, oh, so when did you figure it out? When I was like missing classes, or when my Patronus was when my Boggart was the moon, yeah. And like just all these things. And like I do remember like in the movie as well, but also while reading the book, because the book gave a lot more of those like detailed hints at it. I do remember like being like, oh shit, you're right!
Well, here's the thing. In the movie, it's like his Boggart is the moon.
It's literally the moon.
In the books, Harry's like, is that a crystal ball?
Although, I will say, the first time I watched the movie, I was like, wait, what is that? Because it's like, it's pretty brief, and then like and then they turn it into a balloon, and it's silly. So like, I don't know. I mean, like, granted, you know what a moon looks like. I don't know. I'm doing a bad job of explaining that. Like, I didn't necessarily think that. I was like, oh, that was a moon. I was like, oh, that was a thing? I don't know what that was. Yeah. Interesting. This is just where we get into the part of the story where it's just like light bulb moment after light bulb moment. Yeah. And
I
it's so
definitely remember reading this for the first time. I think this is the first book that kind of like fucked me up. Like I was like, oh shit.
Yes, absolutely. I have the same memory. The thing is that, like, for example, the Chamber of Secrets is a really fun mystery. The Chamber of Secrets is all questions, and then at the end you get, like, an okay answer.
Yeah.
The Prisoner of Azkaban, it's like the whole book, you don't even know what questions you're supposed to be asking.
You're like, there's a murderer?
And then at the end, it's like, here's all the answers. And you're like, oh my God, I'm 13 and I never even dreamed that it could be this nuts.
Like you're
dude.
answering questions I never even thought to ask you.
Yeah. Because, when you, like, read it for the first time or you watch it for the first time, you don't necessarily question, like, why Lupin is gone from classes or, like, why he has
he's sick.
You're just like, yeah, whatever, you know, that's the thing. But, like, so when there's this reveal that, like, oh, he's a werewolf, and it's like, oh, shit, you're right!
Do you guys remember, Grace, when you read the books, Mary Clay, when you were watching the movies, do you remember the very first moment that you learned that Lupin was a werewolf?
It was when Hermione goes,
No, but I'm saying, like,
he's a werewolf.
Do you remember the way you felt as a reader? Because to me, I remember, for example, the emotional roller coaster of reading the whole rest of this climax. I remember in this moment being like, Lupin is bad. And then in the next chapter, it changes so quickly.
Yeah, I do. I don't, you might have brought it up or something, but it mentions that after the reveal that Lupin's a werewolf, he, like, reaches towards Ron to help him or something. And Ron says, like, get away from me, werewolf.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's so sad.
It is.
And it's
very
also,
sad.
also, like, if we're going with this, you know, metaphor symbolism
The
that,
gay
like,
allegory.
it means gay and or like HIV
Gay is werewolf
or
is
AIDS.
gay.
It's very sad because Ron would have grown up with those like prejudices.
Yeah.
Like maybe not necessarily like Arthur and Molly sitting him down and being like, werewolves are bad, but like he definitely would have picked up on it.
Yeah.
More so than Hermione or Harry would have.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think that, like, in rereading this chapter, and I've reread this book a bunch of times, but I get the same feeling every time when I get to this point. Like I was reading it last night and I stopped when I got to the end of this chapter, and I was like, that is so unnatural. I just want to read the rest of it right now, right this second.
Yeah.
I just about did keep reading. I unfortunately had other shit to do, but I was like, you know what? This is like this chapter flew by.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Like it's not necessarily like it's not a long chapter. It's not like it's a 3-page chapter. It's not a long chapter either.
It's
but like
medium. It's regular.
It really flew by. I was like, oh dang.
It's just complete chaos.
It is. And it's juicy every second.
I was going to say, even after, like, all these years of, like, seeing the movie many times and, like, reading this many times and knowing what happens, it's still really satisfying to read, like, these next couple groupings of chapters.
It's satisfying, and yet, like,
it's so frustrating
at the
same time.
It's also hard to have the climax, to have the proper resolution slip out of your fingers every single time.
So what I do when I watch the movie is the scene where Sirius and Harry, like, after all this shit happens and they're outside the Shrieking Shack anymore, they're standing together, like, off by themselves, and they're looking up at Hogwarts, and Sirius is like, I thought maybe you could come live with me. That's where I turned the movie off. And I'm like, you know what? That's how it ends.
That's what happened.
Yeah.
Bye. Because literally, like, right after Harry says, like, what? Come and live with you. And then there's, like, it's like, Harry, it's a full moon! And then it just goes to shit.
Yeah, it goes to
like,
shit
no.
is exactly the way to describe the rest of this.
Anyway.
Are y'all ready for some fucking plugs?
Woo!
Yeah.
Mary Clay, will you please do Tyler the honor of plugging for him?
I was going to say I can probably do Tyler's outro for him.
Thank you.
Since
he made it through most of the episode, and I'm grateful.
Yeah, oh my gosh, just so wild that, like, we were joking about.
I know.
What if
y'all were like,
what if we
jinxed
get it on recording? You jinxed it, and in our text message, Grace jinxed it.
My bad. But his baby's gonna be a week old by the time this comes out. That's so cute.
That's true.
Well, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully, because
she could be in labor for like another day.
She could be in labor for a while. They could get there, and they're like, "Hey, we're gonna put you on this thing to hold you off for another couple days."
Everyone in the future knows exactly how this birth played out.
This is true. I know all of the details of the Carlin's birth plan now.
Tyler, if you're listening, our thoughts and prayers go with you.
Anymore.
No, he is.
If the child has been, I say the child.
The child.
A child. Anyway, there's no way he has time to sit down and listen to an hour of nonsense.
Anyway, God bless Tyler and his baby.
Tyler's plugs. Let me see if I know all this. I believe he's on Twitter at Ty Carlin 11.
Linked
and
in
you
the
can
show notes if she got it wrong.
Yeah, everything will be linked in the show notes. Go follow him on Instagram too, because there might be cute pictures of the baby up by the time you're listening to this, or there might not be. Who knows?
Yeah,
there
no
will
guarantees.
still be cute pictures of their current baby. I say that. Olivia, their other child.
All the babies are valid.
Yeah, okay. All that's linked in the show notes. And then you can also listen to his show, Bacon and Eggs, Movie Lovers Podcast, wherever you get podcasts. And you can listen to all of the other shows on the WB&E network by going to WB&E.org. And then I want to see if I know. Let me go back in our texts and see, like, what has he been... I'm going to plug for him Blazers. He's been trying to figure out this like what in a a sort of post-pandemic world where I'm working back at the office and some people are business casual, some people are, what do we wear? So he's been exploring a lot of fashion options, and he's a blazer dad, so I'm gonna plug Blazers for Tyler on behalf of Tyler.
I love that deeply. Okay,
yeah.
Mary Clay, do your own.
And then you can listen to my podcast also on the WB&E network. That's What I'm Talking About, wherever you get podcasts, new episodes every Tuesday.
And what have you been reading, playing, watching?
Oh, yeah. I'm gonna recommend, it's a Netflix show called The Irregulars. The Netflix description makes it sound like, oh, this is another Sherlock and John Watson, like, spin-off series. It's really not about them. It's about these kids who sort of kind of start working for John Watson. And so it's not the characters of Watson and Sherlock they're like sort of in the background for a while. Mm-hmm. But I enjoyed it very much. It's very bingeable. I think it's like maybe 8 or 10 episodes. Could have been gayer, but
everything could be gayer, which is a problem.
Yeah, I recommend it.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Grace, what about you? What do you have to plug this week?
This week, I am going to plug another podcast. It is called You're Wrong About. That's the end of the title. Have you guys heard of that one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have? Everyone has?
Yeah.
Do I even have
Yes.
to talk about it?
Yeah.
We've heard
Okay,
of it.
well.
Plug it.
Okay, great. Well, for anyone who hasn't heard of it.
I mean, I've never heard of it in my life. This is the first time I'm hearing about it.
Well, I just discovered it, okay? And it's hosted by 2 journalists who go over, past events and people that we all think that we know about. And then they explain, sort of how we've been wrong about what we think we know about those things and people. So I think it's very interesting. They go over a lot of different and cool things. Check it out if you're like me and you live on a rock and you've never checked it out before.
Awesome. I've been your host, Christina. You can follow me on Instagram at Your Girl of the World. You can follow me on Twitter at Christina Khan. You can follow me on TikTok at Sprouts Private Stash. And this week I am going to plug, oh my God, panic.
How do you plug a thing? You're on this thing every single week. How do you come up with things? Because like I haven't been on, I think, since February because I had a mental breakdown in March. Don't worry about it.
You did great.
And I'm always like, I don't know what I've been doing.
I read and I consume a lot of media, and I do often pull from stuff that I've done previously that I don't do now. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, today I'm going to plug a random book that I liked before. I haven't read it in the past 5 years, but I'm going to plug City of Thieves by David Benioff. If his name is familiar to you, yes, he was one of the showrunners on Game of Thrones. Don't let that be a deal breaker for you. He's an excellent writer. He wrote a novel called City of Thieves, which is set in, a world war. One of the two world wars.
It's okay. I constantly mix up when I'm referring to like Tolkien and PTSD, which war he was in.
It's in Russia. Were they in both wars?
And they were also like the Soviet Union during those. So
Shut up.
It's confusing.
City of Thieves by David
I'm going to guess it's 2.
In case you've seen the narration, like the showrunner like videos at the end of the Game of Thrones episodes, he's the hot one. He is by far the hot one. So City of Thieves by David Benioff. I swear to God, I'm trying to figure out which war it was. Here's the thing is it's 2 Russian guys who have to go find eggs for somebody's wedding. And it's one of the best books I've ever read in my life. If the synopsis I'm describing is bad, but I'm still plugging it, that should be a testament to like the writing. You know what I mean? During the Nazis' brutal siege of Leningrad.
Said 2. I said World War II.
That's World War II right there. It's a very excellent book. My brother Michael didn't read for the first 20 years of his life, and when he finally decided to read, I handed him City of Thieves, and he fucking loved it.
Amazing.
So if that's not a testament, I don't know what is. That's my recommendation for you, City of Thieves. I would recommend it to everyone. I'm just going to keep saying the word recommend. I recommend it. I recommend it. I recommend it. Anyway, Grace, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much for having me.
I guess I can just go fuck myself in. Bye.
Mary Clay, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Mary Clay, I'm going to need you now more than ever. And Tyler, thank you so much for being on this episode.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me on.
That was a great Tyler impression.
Did I do a good Tyler
like the enthusiasm was appropriate. So until next time, Harry, get out of the Shrieking Shack. That is not right. That is not the place you need to be in right now. Until next time, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.
Listen. We didn't want to be half-bloods.
If you're listening to this because you think you might be one, our advice, stop listening to this podcast right now.
Percy Jackson had the right idea when he told people to stop reading the books detailing his adventures as a half-blood.
But we didn't listen to his warnings.
And that's why we started this podcast of the Eldest Gods, where we read books written by Rick Riordan and talk about how they affected us as kids and continue to as semi-adults. You can find us every Thursday wherever you get your podcasts.
Do you think we fooled them for a second there?
Gods, I hope not.
Bring on the monsters. We're making a podcast!
The Restricted Section was created and hosted by me, Christina Kahn, based on the book series by J.K. Rowling. All music by Ryan Kahn. Logo by Michael Hardison. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Restricted Section Pod or shoot us an email at restrictedsectionpod@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your thoughts, feelings, complaints, conspiracy theories, or lavish praise.
It's weird to hear your voice say the words bacon and eggs live, you know? Like, I've never done it, like, and attached it to, like, a human face before.
I've never thought of that as being, like, a weird... Howdy, yokes, and welcome back to Bacon and Eggs.
Wrong podcast.